While I'm late to the party, I finally got to play Fnaf Help Wanted 2, this time around without a poster that used fan models. Basically, I'm just gonna talk about the sections. Spoiler warning, I guess, but like, it's a Fnaf video that's released like 2 months after the game release, so you probably either don't care or don't plan on playing the game anyway. On to the Backstage section of the game, where I will be covering the 5 mini-games. This is one of the shortest sections in the entire game, I'll be honest. This is also one of the only sections to be entirely Security Breach themed. First up are the 2 Arts and Crafts mini-games, Arts and Crafts Daycare and Arts and Crafts Loft. And they were fine. I don't love them, I don't hate them. There's a fun little achievement you can get if you eat glue in the first one, but it's pretty well just paint by numbers, which is pretty easy if you know how color mixing works, followed by making a paper pal, which was really annoying at points initially because I couldn't tell if this was supposed to be the part I needed. For example, the eyes show up on the monitor as just black dots, but when you select them, they show up as googly eyes. And on the topic of color mixing, I actually have seen some people struggle with that. Fair enough. I'm like an art student, so I do understand how that works, but that's one of those issues where when you're on a timer, if you do not know what colors make purple, you're gonna be stressed. And then there's Arts and Crafts Loft, which adds a death condition. A really cute detail I like, though, is the actual paintings in the paint by number section are all messed up now. You also have glitter glue, which I just kept calling static in my playthrough, and weird cyan goop. I'm not really sure what it is, but like, it's bubbling. It's pretty well the same game as last time, except for the fact what you need to make is harder, and you also now have a flashlight charger, and moon to contend with. But I actually really enjoyed this one, as you have to quickly look around to find Moon and hold him at bay while you're trying to assemble something. The minigame has its issues, like how my gun selector thing literally got stuck inside a paper pal at one point, but frankly, it was quite fun. Anyway, on to the makeup section. The salon minigames are fine. There's some cute references, like if you make Monty in the Staff Bot one, you get an achievement, but it was fine. I found the color picking aspect to be kind of annoying, because for instance, the 2 ones for Monty, the blue and the pink, look so similar on that monitor. And since my discussion for all 3 of these minigames is very much the same, other than they just get harder each time, I'm just gonna use Staffbot footage. But the Roxy Talkie in the 3rd version is not explained at all. Like, I could not figure out how I was supposed to use it until I Googled it. Which should not be the case if I have to Google how to do something the game should really tell you. But overall, it's fine. You can get through it relatively quick. It's just annoying that some things aren't as clear as they really should be for any minigame that asks for even the slightest amount of precision. Also, this is the only minigame category to not have those weird voodoo dolls attached to it. On to the next section, staff only. And this, honestly, is the section I think I played the most. First up is cold storage, and I wish we had more minigames like this. My favorite part of the original Help Wanted is easily the repair sections, and cold storage is that with Glamrock Freddy. I would have appreciated just having a couple more of these. I didn't need 8 like Help Wanted 1 had, but even if we had like 2 or 3, I would have loved that. Because when I got to this minigame, I was super excited because I love that from the original Help Wanted. It was so cool. And, well, it loses its awe factor, since, you know, this is the 9th one in this series. It's still a really cool minigame, and I really wish we got to see more of it. Ignoring the logical question of, how are you overheating? We are in a cold freezer! It was still pretty fun, and I enjoyed it. It's a game that had its issues, like the fact is if you don't do some things quick enough, you'll just die, which is especially annoying when one of those things is timing based, but overall it was quite enjoyable. Next up on the chopping block are the first aid levels. Just like the salon levels, I've decided to cover them all together. And God, I'm sick of these. For clarification, I went for 100%, and if you want to do that, the fastest way to get one of the achievements is just repeatedly playing the first aid level like 8 bajillion times, and it's so boring. And my critiques of this minigame are, I've probably played it 40 times for an achievement. So I'm going to try to put that aside and talk about the game as it is. And overall, it's fine. I do like the fact that you don't actually need to identify what's wrong with Helpy if you can visually identify it. But there are some things that felt really clunky or janky, and you do not know how many times I had to reach through something to reach specifically the hammer. I had instances where things just kind of despawned and weren't accessible, and it was definitely one of the buggier minigames. And also the first one that I really noticed an issue we're going to need to talk about at some point in this review. The centering in this game is atrocious. Every single time you die, you end up turning a couple inches to either the left or right, or having to move a couple inches. So you can start in the center of your room, and after dying like 3-4 times, you're hitting a wall. And it was better than the first Help Wanted in this regard, ironically enough. It didn't constantly move you around, but there were times where I had to reach through walls to collect key items, such as those VHS tapes that are required to complete the game. But yeah, Help Wanted 2 has a bit of an issue just with centering, but that's an issue with all the minigames. But I figured this is the first one where it really became apparent because of how much you need to turn and move around and grab stuff. But overall, it's a fine enough minigame. I appreciate what it did. It just gets really repetitive really fast. And also the TV remote, I swear to God, just sometimes teleports away. On to our first traditional Fnaf minigame, as well as the first game to have a memory, Fizzy Faz. And I actually really like this minigame. It's incredibly fun. For clarification, what you need to do is make the orders on time, but you're going to need to potentially overwork your workers to do that. And if you do that, they'll be upset. But also if you don't give them breaks, they'll be upset. And during either of those two things, them being mad at you or them being on break, they don't produce things. And if they're mad, they will come up to your office and attempt to kill you, where you then have to hold a lockdown, which freezes all 5 stations. It's a pretty fun and enjoyable sit and survive, protect your office, classic style FNAF experience. And I really enjoyed it. I don't have much more to say aside from that, but it was quite enjoyable, and honestly, the memory is fine. Also, before we continue, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps with the channel an absolute ton. Thank you. Our final staff-only minigame being Endo Warehouse, where you match things. It's a fine enough minigame. I was actually able to beat it by answering the answers before the endos could reach me. Clarification, hope you like staring at endos as you pray they don't come too close while you're trying to solve this. But honestly, it's fun enough. It's fine. It's one of those minigames where don't love it, don't hate it, doesn't overstay its welcome. One of my bigger issues is the game tells you to flash your camera to stop the endos, but I did that and nothing happened because there's like a really short radius, which you could only infer if you played Security Breach. Anyway, on to food prep. It's a fine enough minigame set. Doesn't really overstay its welcome, and once you figure it out, it's quite fun. Ignoring the fact that the endos are barely a threat in the third one, but there's some extra details that make it quite enjoyable. For example, the slight hidden detail that in the second level, each of Chica's voice lines reflects where she stands. So if you figure that out, you can find her a lot quicker. And you can actually ignore the animatronic threats in all of these levels as long as you're quick enough to do the orders. This also has a memory, but I'm not really going to mention them from this point on if they're like the last two, which are just quickly do a thing at the start of the mini. But yeah, it's a set of minigames that are frustrating at first, but once you figure out how they were fine enough and somewhat enjoyable. On to Ticket Booth, which may honestly be my favorite section overall, as I thoroughly enjoyed all three minigames here. The carousel minigame and the harder version of the carousel minigame are honestly really fun. You repair a carousel that's broken down, which is fine enough and enjoyable enough, while having to keep Moon away by shining your flashlight on him. But once you fix the carousel, everything catches on fire and you have a minute to survive, as Moon is now more aggressive and coming at you fast. And it was really fun. Although weirdly enough, I find the game gets easier over time, as when none of them are moving, Moon will only be in one stationary spot, but once all three rings of the carousel are moving, Moon is going to always be moving around, which means you're more likely to find him. But that's like a minor critique, and just personal preference of what I think is easier. But overall, it's quite the fun minigame, and I really enjoyed it. The whole time it was enjoyable, and has honestly become one of my favorite. Now time for Captain Foxy's Log Ride, a direct sequel to my favorite minigame from the original Help Wanted, and the key to the next memory we will actually talk about. It's a really fun log ride. You shoot at things, it's enjoyable. Why is it whenever I see footage and someone has a gun, they instantly point it at themselves? It was enjoyable. You hit the targets, there's no death condition, unless you hit Helpy. Because if you hit Helpy, you go off course. In this, our first new character shows up. Jacko Moon. Well, I mean, he was in second carousel, I think. But this is the first time I want to talk about him, because he has an awesome design. Basically, if you hit Helpy, you enter the off-limits side area, which completing that allows you to get your memory. But it's quite fun, and I'm pretty sure required if you want to get the top score, because there sure are a lot of extra targets. But I really like it. It's fun. I've seen some complaints about it, because if you don't know where the specific things are you need to hit, you can play this mini game for like an hour straight trying to get the memory. But if you know where they are, it's really fun. I personally really enjoyed it. Anyway, on to Sister Location, and these mini games are fine. The first one we're talking about, Valora Gallery. This is just such an awkward game to play, because at least for me, when I played it, it's like, you're supposed to be on the ground. It's like, my hands are clipping through the floor, and I have them the lowest I can physically put them without bending down. The point being, it feels awkward. It's definitely a game that works a lot better in flat mode, like it did in the original Sister Location compared to in VR. But it's pretty similar to the original, aside from the fact there are mini arenas you can punt. I hope you like punting them. On to the two Breaker Room minigames, and these are really fun. Hold levers to charge up the panels, while keeping an eye on Funtime Freddy in his position. You can use the microphone in front of you to play bonbon sounds to keep him at bay. It's a bit confusing at first, because for the top row you have to hold two levers at once, but once you figure that out, these are really fun minigames. And I know I've kinda kept away from them, but achievement. You have to boop Freddy's nose. Really, he's about to jump scare you. That is cool. I mean, you will die, but it's cool nonetheless. But I really enjoyed this minigame, because it has the dichotomy of, do you want to hold one lever while using the other hand to have the microphone to keep him at bay, or do you want to use both hands so you can charge up a higher and harder lever, and if you do that earlier, cover 3 of them all at once. It's really fun, and I really enjoyed it. Who likes Sister Location Custom Night? I'm not joking. Like 5 of the minigames in the Sister Location section are Custom Night. And honestly, they're fun. They change up which animatronics are there, and even add one that wasn't in there originally in Funtime Chica. They're pretty fun, albeit I have my issues with them, because with the exception of the Ballora one, you can pretty well just keep an eye on the 3 cameras surrounding you and you'll be fine. Which means 3 out of the 7 cameras are usable. Aside from that, you're just wasting your time. And our final sister location minigame, Interview. And boy is this a thing! It's 3 smaller games in one. Hide and seek, find plush baby on the camera and give her a shock. As well as red light, green light, point your flashlight at plush baby to slow her down. Which you can just do a triangle and you'll be fine. And flashlight tag. It's plush babies. They're back. Steel will... I don't mean to be rude, but did anyone like that minigame? Why is it back? It is annoying, especially since you have to do 2 other minigames potentially before it. So it takes like 6 minutes just to try to deal with the plush babies. And after all of that, the game then has Baby appear, where if you do not take her ice cream and eat it, you will get a game over! Yeah, not the biggest fan of this one. I'm gonna be honest. But anyway, on to our final type of minigames. Anyway, on to the Fazcade. And it's fun. First up, Bonk-a-Bon. It's whack-a-mole, but you hit the bonbons and especially nail to the ground and annihilate the plush babies. Actually, I have a better name for this section. Plush baby torture. I mean, it's accurate. You spend a good chunk of your playtime in this game repeatedly hitting her with a mallet. You also have Phaser Blast where you get to shoot her repeatedly with a gun. Oh yeah, also there's this new animatronic called Carney. Either way, Phaser Blast is cool because you get to shoot plush baby. And overall, it's just a darts game. You shoot targets with either a laser gun, a dart gun, or balls, and it can be fine. It's fun enough. It's another minigame that suffers from the centering issue I mentioned earlier, but another thing this game has going for it is it also holds a memory, and hope you like playing each of these levels multiple times, because you're gonna have to shoot rockets down. Doing so unlocks Phaser Blast 5. Which is the only boss battle in this entire game, and frankly, one of the only boss battles in this series I'd be willing to call a boss battle. Seriously, they consider the Vanny ending Vanny's boss battle. I don't know why. Oh yeah, also, Phaser Blast 1 is a massive love letter to Freddy in Space, with Phaser Blast 3 being a massive love letter to the original Fnaf, and Phaser Blast 4 being one for Fnaf 2. So, overall, really cool, and nice love letters to some of the older entries, and also Freddy in Space 2. There's also the DJ Music Man level, but it's pretty well just another memory level where you have to stop things using the camera. Honestly, it's very similar to Endo Warehouse, which we already mentioned, except for the fact there's DJ Music Man in front of you, and it felt like I was gonna fall over. But, yeah, not much to say, because I already kind of talked about it in the Endo Warehouse section. And then there's Bonnie Bowl. The sole reason I would never suggest anybody goes for 100% on this game. Because of this one level! The reason being, the achievement Gobble Gobble, where you have to bowl a turkey. And if you're like me and have no clue what that means, 3 strikes in a row. Get 3 strikes in a row in bowling. Which is hard enough on its own, but also, the bowling alley will come at you, there will be obstacles on the course, and there will be moon directly above you. This achievement took hours, and I didn't even get it. Look, I'm gonna be honest, I suck at bowling. In my winning attempt of this minigame, I think I hit 3 pins. But thankfully, I decided to do the very honorable thing of ask everyone I know to help me. So we eventually got it, and that was somehow the most fun I had during this game. Mostly because the person I was playing against had never used VR before, and attempted to kick Plush Baby in the face. You know, with my VR headset that totally has leg tracking. But like, it's a fine enough minigame if you aren't going for 100%, but if you are, run while you still can! After playing through all those minigames, you'll be able to get the ending of the game. Which, honestly, really cool. I really love Cassie's new model. It looks a lot better than it did in Ruin, which isn't a big deal. Ruin's a first-person game, you don't see her too often, but the new model looks dope. Also, hey look, Glitch Trap! You know, the main antagonist, who we have just now seen for the first time! Now, onto the true final minigames, and the final part and true ending of Help Wanted 2. And Mystic Hippo. Look, it feels wrong to go through this whole review and not mention Mystic Hippo once, but also I didn't buy a PSVR 2 for one subpar and kinda crappy looking minigame, I'll be honest. Anyway, Princess Quest 2. It's fun. Or Princess Quest 4, I mean. It's a Princess Quest game. At least this time it works, unlike Security Breach. No, but seriously, like, what genius thought it was a good idea to have the true ending require you to hit the enter button on a keyboard? On a game that released on PS4, PS5 on launch as well. Either way, it starts out as a normal Princess Quest game, and it's fine enough. That is, until you see the princess yourself. Grab your sword and strike her down. Yeah, we're now playing Princess Quest in VR, which looks really cool. I love the voxel art style. I haven't really seen a game that looks like this, I guess. I haven't really seen a VR game with a voxel art style, I guess is what I'm trying to say. There's gravestones with dolls of animatronics in front of them. I'm sure that's not at all lore important. But this section's really fun. And then it ends. Look, the ending's cool. Giant Vanny destroys Glitch Trap and you're in a claw machine for some reason. I'm sure it makes sense once we figure it out like 8 months from now when a book spells it out for us, but I actually really enjoyed the level. And yeah, I'm sure you've noticed I haven't talked about the story of this game. And that is because I do not feel like delving into that because Fnaf's plot is confusing. But overall, it was a really fun and phenomenal entry in the series, and honestly may surpass Help Wanted 1 as my favorite game that the franchise has put out. Which is great, because a game that is FNAF 10 sure as hell had a lot on its shoulders. Either way, I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye!